church is a household, and we are a family of faith. But when we stand up for the things that we believe Jesus stood up for, then divisions take place when we have to make those tough choices. And it has been in the history of the church, from its very inception, that it's always the next generation that calls to the current one to say, "What are you doing?" It is always the generation to come which calls back to its elders and says, "What is wrong with you? How can you judge a person by the color of their skin and deny them the gifts and the graces of ministry and full participation in the church?" It is the generation to come that called back to their elders to say, "What is wrong with you? That you can't see that a woman can lead a congregation as well," and it's been my experience, sometimes better than what men can. It is the generation to come which calls back to the elders that says, "What is wrong with you? That you would deny gay and lesbian people the opportunity to be ordained ministers." It is the generation to come which calls back to the elders and says, "What is wrong with you? That you can't see that your everyday habitual habits are causing our environment and our earth to be destroyed." It is the generation to come which calls back to us and says, "What is wrong with you? There are poor and marginalized people, not all around the world, but in your own community, and we won't get up out of our pews to do anything about it." These generations run deep. But it is the children of the generation who always call out and seem to follow the Kung Fu Jesus more faithfully than the present generation. So we, as this progressive, open and affirming Christian movement in our community that identifies ourselves with the United Church of Christ and the stances that we have made, we need to listen to the generation that is coming so that we can faithfully stand beside and align ourselves with the Kung Fu Jesus today. Because the children and the youth are not just the future of our church. It is the children who stand for what we should be standing for. So I want to close this sermon by sharing with you an excerpt from a letter that was written by a 12-year-old girl named Severin Suzuki. She read this letter. She wrote this letter and read it at the 1992 Earth Summit in Brazil. And she read this letter. And the video of her, which some of you may have seen on YouTube or some other example, shares a similar environmental concern which way back in 1992 we share today. "Hello," she says. "My name is Severin Suzuki."
Hello, I'm Severin Suzuki, speaking for ECHO, the Environmental Children's Organization. We're a group of 12 and 13-year-olds trying to make a difference. Vanessa Suddy, Morgan Geisler, Michelle Quigg, and me. We've raised all the money to come here ourselves, to come 5,000 miles to tell you adults you must change your ways. Coming up here today, I have no hidden agenda. I am fighting for my future. Losing my future is not like losing an election or a few points on the stock market. I am here to speak for all generations to come. I am here to speak on behalf of the starving children around the world whose cries go unheard. I am here to speak for the countless animals dying across this planet because they have nowhere left to go. I am afraid to go out in the sun now because of the holes in our ozone. I am afraid to breathe the air because I don't know what chemicals are in it. I used to go fishing in Vancouver, my home, with my dad, until just a few years ago we found the fish full of cancers. And now we hear of animals and plants going extinct. every day vanishing forever. In my life, I have dreamt of seeing the great herds of wild animals, jungles and rainforests full of birds and butterflies. But now I wonder if they will even exist for my children to see. Did you have to worry of these things when you were my age? All this is happening before our eyes, and yet we act as if we have all the time we want and all the solutions. I'm only a child and I don't have all the solutions. But I want you to realize, neither do you. You don't know how to fix the holes in our ozone layer. You don't know how to bring the salmon back up a dead stream. You don't know how to bring back an animal now extinct. And you can't bring back the forest that once grew where there is now a desert. If you don't know how to fix it, please stop breaking it. Here, you may be delegates of your government, business people, organizers, reporters, or politicians, but really, your mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles, and all of you are someone's child. I'm only a child, yet I know we are all part of a family, 5 billion strong, in fact 30 million species strong. And borders and governments will never change that. I'm only a child, yet I know we are all in this together and should act as one single world towards one single goal. In my anger, I am not blind, and in my fear, I am not afraid of telling the world how I feel. In my country, we make so much waste. We buy and throw away, and yet northern countries will not share with the needy. Even when we have more than enough, we are afraid to share. We are afraid to let go of some of our wealth. In Canada, we live the privileged life, with plenty of food, water, and shelter. We have watches, bicycles, computers, and television sets. The list could go on for 2 days. 2 days ago, here in Brazil, we were shocked when we spent time with some children living on the streets. This is what one child told us. I wish I was rich. And if I were, I would give all the street children food, clothes, medicines, shelter, and love and affection. If a child on the streets who has nothing is willing to share, why are we who have everything still so greedy? I can't stop thinking that these are children my own age, that it makes a tremendous difference where you are born. That I could be one of those children living in the favelas of Rio. I could be a child starving in Somalia, or a victim of war in the Middle East, or a beggar in India. I am only a child, yet I know if all the money spent on war was spent on finding environmental answers, ending poverty, and finding treaties, what a wonderful place this earth would be. At school, even in kindergarten, you teach us how to behave in the world. You teach us not to fight with others, to work things out, to respect others, to clean up our mess, not to hurt other creatures, to share, not be greedy. Then why do you go out and do the things you tell us not to do? Do not forget why you are attending these conferences, who you're doing this for. We are your own children. You are deciding what kind of world we are growing up in. Parents should be able to comfort their children by saying, everything's going to be all right. It's not the end of the world, and we're doing the best we can. But I don't think you can say that to us anymore. Are we even on your list of priorities? My dad always says, you are what you do, not what you say. Well, what you do makes me cry at night. You grown-ups say you love us, but I challenge you, please, make your actions reflect your words. Thank you.
is a disciple of the Kung Fu Jesus, of a generation to come who is calling back to us, her elders, the present generation in the church. She is saying, align yourself with what is good and what is right and make the tough choices to demonstrate that allegiance. But the good news is that we have a Kung Fu master who helps us make those tough choices based on our discipleship with him. This Kung Fu master says, take up my yoke and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Jesus says, if you want to end violence, when you are struck on the right cheek, turn and offer the other. Jesus says, if you want to be blessed, then be with those who mourn, those who are poor, those who seek peace. Jesus says, if you want to be rich, give all your possessions away. Jesus says, if you want to save your life, you need to lose it for the sake of the gospel. So says our Kung Fu Jesus. Because sometimes, for something to be blessed, it first needs to be broken. Amen?
Amen.